Hi, I'm Candace.
And I'm Ripley. And this is Comicsplaining. Episode 2.
Talk at the same time.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah.
I think that's gonna happen a lot in this episode.
Yeah. We are not recording next to each other like we did on the first episode. This is probably going to be this way for a few episodes, but we're just doing the best we can with all of our technical problems.
Yeah, it took us like an hour to even start.
Yeah. We had a whole plan for how this was going to work, and then it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. We're here now. I'm going to try not to make too many gross throat noises into the mic.
I think you should do so many gross throat noises. I think that should be just an aspect of your character.
Please, no.
This is Candace who makes weird throat noises.
I can't help it. The mic is next to my face. Okay. Anyway, so I'm very excited to do this episode.
I am not very excited.
You're not.
No.
I think it's going to be very interesting because where I struggle with the X-Men just purely because there's so many of them and like they're always joining and leaving and they go to different teams and there's like other related teams.
I'm going to have to explain to you about X Factor at some point.
Yeah. You struggle with Thor because of the genre, basically.
Yeah, I don't get super hooked into things with a lot of magic unless they hit specific buttons. This is very strange to say because when I was a kid I was very into Harry Potter and well, it's all magic, but like, I don't know, as an adult I've had a really hard time getting into things with magic, which again is really odd because sci-fi is really just fantasy with a different coat of paint. I mean, they have different focuses, different things going on, but like, I don't know, I just struggle. But anyway, we're gonna try this. You're gonna make me learn about Thor for once. If anybody can do it, you can do it. You've done a pretty good job getting me to understand things, so if anybody can do it, it's gonna be you.
Aw, thank you.
You're a good explainer.
Well, at least I can say that early Thor is very much a superhero story. There's a lot of tropes in it that you might not expect because that's just how superhero stories were at the time.
I expect that going into this with with old man Stan to hold my hand will probably be very helpful for me.
Yeah, so it's not going to get difficult until later, and when it gets difficult for me, then you're probably going to want to die. Because there is a point. There is a point where even I cannot stand it. So, we are actually starting... So, Thor doesn't actually get his own title book for a while, so we are starting with his introduction in Journey into Mystery, number 83. It
kind of drives me nuts how these things... And not only him, there were a couple of them. There was also... Wasn't Iron Man, and didn't Ant-Man, wasn't he on a different title also?
Probably.
Thanks.
I don't know. Well, it's like a lot of these early ones, or at least in the beginning, the long-lasting ones, rather, they just started in these, like, titles.
Variety comics?
Like variety comics, and then eventually they got their own comics because they were so popular, I guess. But Thor is Journey into Mystery. So, number 83, it came out in 1962, and it's by our dudes, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. So, I mean, first of all, if you look at the cover, it's fucking amazing.
I really like, this guy looks like he has an AK.
Yeah, it's the most exciting superhero of all time.
Who's this dude on the rooftop? Well, there are several dudes on several rooftops. I didn't actually see them until after I saw the singular dude.
I think he's just a random guy.
Probably.
So, the story starts. So, we are in Norway, where Donald Blake is on vacation. Donald Blake is an American physician. He's a doctor with a limp, so he has a cane, and he's very frail. And he's on vacation in Norway. He's overlooking the sea.
I gotta tell you, it's really hard for me to be looking at Donald Blake, because he's over in this tiny corner panel while Thor's just taking up the whole fucking page.
Yeah, I mean, he's there, but he's not doing anything important yet.
He's just taking up the whole page when the actual story is going on in, like,
the tiny corner.
The corner of the page.
This is the first page, by the way. So yeah, Donald Blake is looking out at the sea, and then he turns around to leave. And as he turns around to leave, he turns around just in time to not see a spaceship landing behind him.
You would think that would make noise.
No, it says it lands silently.
Well, you would think it would make noise.
Well, it doesn't, because it lands silently.
No, it doesn't, because it lands silently.
It does. So, on the next page, we see some aliens getting off of the spaceship. They
look like peaky heads.
What?
They look like the Easter Island heads, but they have a tiny body.
Yeah, they look like the Easter Island heads crossbred with the Thing, because they're orange. Which, by the way, on the cover they're green, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I do actually I can lend some insight to this.
Oh boy.
So, for some of the early comics, they would send out the covers to be colored by separate companies for some reason, rather than Marvel artists.
Okay.
So, you'll see in some of the upcoming X-Men episodes, there'll be a few where, like, the Scarlet Witch is wearing green. You know, the Scarlet Witch.
Oh, thus making her further indistinguishable from Amora.
Oh, God. So yeah, I can actually lend some insight to that. That's good.
Okay. Well, anyway, these aliens pop up, or rather they pop down. They land on the planet. And they're from Saturn.
This grass is either really tall or they're really short.
Yeah. So they hop onto Earth and they immediately start wrecking shit because they're like, oh, we're from Saturn, we're powerful there, but on Earth we're invincible. So this guy, like, rips up a tree, and another guy jumps off a mountain, and then they're like, oh, we have guns, too.
What's the point of being invincible? Why does that matter if they also have guns?
Yeah,
they could just punch things.
Yeah, I don't know. They have guns, though. But little do they know, there's a random old man watching them.
Little do they know.
Little do they know. So, this random old man is out in the woods for some reason. He's a fisherman, supposedly. I guess we did establish that Donald Blake was on the seaside, so I guess it makes sense that this old dude is there, kind of.
Donald Blake didn't hear these guys, like, uprooting trees and falling off mountains, or did they do that silently, too?
I don't know, he just shambled away at the speed of light. He was already on the other side of fucking town.
When your girl says her parents aren't home.
Yeah, so this old guy, he's like, I gotta run back to the village and tell people. So he goes and he tells them there's aliens, and they're all like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, to be fair to the villagers.
Yeah, exactly. And Donald Blake is there, and he's like, that sounds weird, but I wonder if he's not crazy. So he decides, as any sane person would do, to hike up into the mountains.
As any sane person with a limp would do.
Yeah, exactly. As any disabled person would do with ambulatory problems. So he goes up there. He sees the aliens. He sees them coincidentally right as they're saying that if anyone sees them, they have to kill them. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta leave. But then he steps on a twig. And he's like, oh shit. And then he falls off a cliff.
Fuck.
He falls off a cliff. He loses his cane. He finds a cave. He goes in the cave. He's like, I gotta find another way out of here because those guys are gonna follow me. But the back of the cave is blocked by a boulder, so he gets depressed because he's small and he can't do anything about it. And he sits with his back against this wall, and then the wall opens, I guess, because there was a button or something that he pressed with his butt, I guess. It's very unclear.
Yeah, it opens. You would think he would notice that when he said.
Right. Exactly. But it opens a secret room where there's this stick that's approximately the size of a cane.
How convenient.
Yeah. And he picks it up and he's like, oh, I can use this as a lever to move the boulder, which is like twice the size of me. That'll work.
I mean, there's something to be said for leverage and angles, and I don't know about that much to be said for it, though.
Well, that's what I would say. So he tries that, and it doesn't work, and he gets mad, and he smacks the boulder with the cane, and there's a bright light, and suddenly he transforms, and he looks at, and the cane turns into a hammer, and he looks at the hammer, and it says, whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of ... Thor.
I thought it was going to be someone else.
I know. Okay, so he immediately draws conclusions. He's, like, not concerned about this situation at all. He's like, this is awesome. I'm Thor. Fuck yeah. So
he's completely forgotten about the aliens.
Yes. So then immediately on the next page, he goes back to that boulder and picks it up with one hand.
The walking stick was already pretty powerful. Is anyone surprised that the walking stick also makes him powerful enough to pick up the boulder by himself?
Yeah, by the way, this representation of Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer, is completely incorrect according to the mythology. Not that anyone cares but me, but the mythology specifically states that Mjolnir's hammer is, the handle is short, like, very weirdly short.
Okay, if it's very weirdly short, that's noteworthy, but it's not, like, super long. It's not like a sledgehammer, a super long sledgehammer, anyway.
It's longer than it should be.
Yes, okay.
Trust me.
I trust you.
So that was, part 1. There's, like, weirdly several parts to this.
Yeah.
Like, acts to this comic.
They do this with some of these early ones. I know it happened in Spider-Man, too.
So he goes out of the cave, he puts the boulder back on the door, and then he strikes a pose to contemplate his new existence, and he's like, oh, I just have to be Thor now, I guess. And he sits down, and he puts down his hammer, and then he transforms again back into Donald Blake, and he immediately surmises that if he stops holding the hammer for 60 seconds, he turns back into Donald Blake, because that's just a logical conclusion to draw, I guess.
He just knows things.
He just knows that.
That's bad writing, Stan.
It's, yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
I feel like normally you would do a little more testing to figure that out.
Yeah, well, worry not, because on the next page, he immediately starts testing.
Oh, good.
So he's like, oh, I remember stories of Thor from my school days. I don't know what school he's talking about that taught him about Norse mythology.
I absolutely did not.
I mean, I took, like, a mythology class in school, but it mostly talked about, like, Greek mythology, to be honest.
I didn't have a mythology class, but we did cover a little bit of Greek mythology.
Well, it was an elective that I took.
No, it was just... It might have been an English class. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Why would that be an English class?
I don't know.
Maybe it was social studies. That makes more sense, but I still feel like it was English.
Yeah. So, first of all, he's like, the first power is if you throw the hammer, it has to return to you, of course. The hammer is invincible. Okay. Nothing can resist it.
What if you throw the hammer, but you throw it too far and it is gone for more than 60 seconds?
Well, we will address that later.
Oh boy.
So, nothing can resist the hammer. He proved this by cracking a tree in half, I guess.
Yes, wood, the most invincible of materials.
Yeah, and here's where we start getting into dumb comic-y bullshit. So he says, by hitting the handle twice on the ground, he can make weather happen. And that's how he uses his weather powers.
Okay.
By hitting the handle twice on the ground.
One would wonder how he stumbled upon this.
Well, he just knows, clearly. And then if he hits it 3 times, it stops the weather. Cool. But if he hits it 1 time, he turns back into Donald Blake, and the hammer turns back into the cane.
Oh, this could get messy.
Yeah. Which, like, it has to beg the question, like, what's the interval of time before, you know, like, if I'm trying to do it 3 times, but I take too long, will it just
make more
accept it as 1? What's the deal?
I got questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Not questions I'm gonna ask, because I can't put them into words, but I do have questions.
Yeah, I figured. So, we go to a different area. We're done with Dawn for now. Done with Dawn. So, these aliens, there's apparently a lot more of them than we saw. There's like an entire fleet of spaceships. They didn't bring this up before now. So, NATO detects them, I guess. So, they send out some jets, and the aliens are like, they can't beat us. Put up this hologram of a dragon, I guess. So, they put up a hologram of a dragon around all the alien ships, and the jets are like, whoa, what the fuck, bail out.
They don't, try to go around it or anything.
No, they don't try to go around it, they don't try to fight it, they're just like, immediately bail out, we can't deal with this fucking dragon that just appeared out of nowhere in the spot where there were alien ships. We can't put these pieces together.
It's the only answer, really.
It's the only answer. So then, on the next page, they throw missiles at them, and the aliens are like, ha ha ha, they can't penetrate our atomic force fields.
Dan!
So, Donald Blake apparently sees this happening from the ground. And he's like, oh, Earth weapons are useless.
These ships have got to be going pretty damn slow.
What?
These ships have got to be going pretty damn slow for him to be picking up on this whole situation.
I guess. Well, I just don't understand why it's happening, like, right above him. It's very convenient.
It just happens.
Yeah, I guess. So he turns back into Thor. And the aliens are like, oh, weird, there's a storm, suddenly. And so here we get Thor's other power, or another of his powers, rather. It's not his final one, for sure, is the way that Thor can fly. And the way that Thor flies is by swinging his hammer around super fast, and then being carried by the swing into the air. That's how he flies.
With his unbreakable thong.
And with his unbreakable thong. And by the way, in these early comics, he always flies in that pose with his legs and arms akimbo. Just completely spread eagle every single fucking time. Which, like, I guess if I used a magic hammer to yeet myself off of this mortal coil, maybe I would do that too. But
I would still feel like you'd put your legs together Superman style.
Right, exactly. It just feels more natural, right?
Right. Especially considering you're facing all that air resistance that it would be wanting to push your legs together.
Yes. So, alright, in the next page, we come to part 3. Thor strikes back.
Thor never got struck to begin with, though I guess he's striking back for NATO.
Yeah. So the aliens have apparently landed on the ground now. They're not flying anymore. Thor flies up to them, and the aliens are like, what the fuck? This Earth dude is, like, flying toward us.
I wonder what happened with those aliens who were looking for Donald Blake. Did they just give up, or are they still there?
I think they gave up. I don't know, though.
We have to kill him. It's something that we absolutely have to do. No one can see us.
No one can see us except for when we attack NATO.
This is really fun. We don't want to give NATO the idea that they're coming. Then they might get more people to jump on their planes.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, kill this guy. And Thor, I guess, just lands in the middle of them and starts swinging his hammer in a circle. And because of that, they can't get close to him and they can't fight him, even though they have guns.
Kind of defeats the purpose. Why did they have guns? I'm back to why do they have guns?
Why gun? So they're like, oh, we can't get close to him. And this other guy is like, wait, he's directly beneath our captive cage.
Why do they have a cage? When did this get established?
Why is it directly above Thor?
Why did he walk under it?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, he wasn't there when he touched down.
Yeah, you'd think he would have noticed. I guess he was too busy swinging his hammer. I can't emphasize enough how much he's not attacking these guys, but literally just swinging his hammer in an arc.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
He's just, like, spinning in a circle.
Yeah, just, like, he's holding it and spinning in a circle really fast, and that's his entire attack.
It's not really an attack, it's more of a defense.
Yeah. It's like when you sit in a rolly chair and you spin really fast. With your legs out, so you clothesline anyone who's in the way. So this cage falls down on top of him, and the aliens are like, nice. Because they saw him fly, so they're like, we don't want to kill him, we want to study him. As anyone would. And on the next page, Thor's like, whatever.
I pity the fool.
This cage is bullshit, and he just, like, breaks the cage open. Because of course he does. And the aliens are like, what the fuck? Shoot him with your guns. Because we have guns.
I don't think I've actually seen them successfully shoot a gun at anyone.
They shot a tree earlier.
Good job, guys. Go team.
So, before they can shoot these guns, however, Thor throws his hammer, because I guess Thor throws his hammer faster than you could shoot a gun. And he hits all of their guns out of their hands
and now they are still not shooting their guns.
They're not shooting their guns. So they're like, fuck, let out the Mechano monster. Which is just like a doofy-looking robot. So they release this robot and they're like, attack him and destroy him. So Thor's like, okay, and he hits the robot once. And it falls apart. And they're like, oh fuck, we gotta get out of here. So they get back on their ships, and they leave the planet forever. Because they're like, this dude is too strong, we can't deal with him. And we don't know if there are more of him. Yeah, what if there's more of him? We gotta fuck off. So this is like a very early instance of Space Kentucky.
Oh my god. So we have to talk about Space Kentucky.
Of course we have to talk about Space Kentucky.
One of my favorite things about the Marvel Universe is how much the aliens are just not even about Earth. The Earthlings just do shit. They
just do shit.
Weird,
it's
overpowered shit that they shouldn't be able to do.
Earth is such a backwater, and yet has so many of these ridiculously powerful people who could just do things.
It's like, wait, they got Galactus to do what? They have how many of the Infinity Storm?
Yeah. And in modern Marvel, a lot of the time, aliens will just be like, yeah, I'm not even fucking with Earth. That shit is bullshit. It's dumb. I hate them.
It's just like some dude driving around with a truck held together with duct tape that should not be able to do the shit it's doing.
But it's terrifying.
You're sitting here watching this guy driving down the highway with, like, his entire house packed onto the back of his truck, held together with twine, but somehow it's working. It's just like, Jesus, how powerful are you?
Right, exactly like that. So this is, I wouldn't say the first instance probably, but it's a very early instance of that. Where these aliens come to Earth to conquer it. And they fight Thor and they're like, what the fuck is happening? We gotta leave this place now.
There might be more of him.
There might be more of him. So Thor's like, fuck yeah, I did this shit. And then he sees the NATO guys coming. And he's like, okay, I better turn back into Donald Blake. And
I mean, why? Because, like, they ran right away from the aliens, and he beat the aliens.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want them to see him, I guess.
He's shy.
He is shy. So the NATO guys are like, look, the invaders are flying away. But why? What could have driven them off? I don't know. There's no one in sight. Except that lame passerby with a gnarled old cane. Well, it's a cinch that skinny gent isn't Earth's secret weapon. And in the last panel, they spelled Thor's name wrong.
I was gonna ask why he's Thor.
Thor.
Amazing.
Editor's note. Thor, the mighty, the greatest new superhero of all time, will appear regularly in Journey into Mystery.
So they were already planning for it to be a regular title.
Yeah.
Okay. But they still kept it under Journey into Mystery.
Yeah, just to make you mad.
Just to make me specifically mad.
Yeah, you who would not be born for another 40 years.
Stan the Man planned this, 30-something years ahead of time.
Yes, clearly.
Crafty old bastard.
Okay, so that's issue 1.
Yeah.
Thor. Alright, so in issue 84 of Journey into Mystery...
God damn it, this is gonna fuck me all the hell up, these numbers.
I know.
How long before we go to Thor having a regular title with his name on it?
I don't know offhand. I would have to, look into that. I'll tell you later.
It's a while, isn't it?
It is.
God damn it.
So, this issue, the art is done by Jack Kirby as always, but the writer is not Stan Lee. It is, in fact, Larry Lieber.
That sounds familiar, but I don't know who that is.
Well, he was technically a writer credited on the last issue too, but I don't know exactly what part he had to play, but he wrote this issue. And this issue is very fun, first, for our podcast, because it has some racist caricatures.
Oh, how exciting. Our first racist characters? We'd have been here long ago if we'd have started reading Captain America.
Yes, I know. But this issue has some very unfortunate depictions of Latino men.
Oh,
so,
no.
Keep that in mind.
I was afraid that guy on the cover with the beard looked a little... that's the way they were going with that.
Oh, it sure is, buddy. You better believe it.
My fears have been proven.
Alrighty. So, the first page, once again, has nothing to do with the issue. Well, it does have to do with the issue, but it's not chronologically tied in.
His back arm looks kind of fucked up. Actually, both his arms look kind of fucked up.
Both of his arms look extremely fucked up. Page 2, we start with a recap of what happened in the last issue, basically. So, you could have just read this instead of reading that, but,
But why would we want to?
You wouldn't get all the flavor.
Exactly.
Okay, so it recaps. And then, on the page after that, we are in the present. Donald Blake has returned to the States to resume his medical practice because, as you recall, he is a doctor, I would assume an internist.
His vacation is over.
Yes, it is. His vacation is over. He's returned to the States. The comic does not say for a very long time which state he lives in, but it is, of course, New York City.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, everyone is in New York City.
The X-Men are actually not in New York City, but...
No.
They're about 40 miles north of New York City.
Yeah, so Donald Blake is a fairly successful doctor, but he has a crush on his nurse.
That's inappropriate.
Jane Foster. This is her first issue, Jane Foster. He has a crush on her, but he doesn't want to tell her because he thinks that she won't love him because he has a limp. So... let that sink in.
Don't know where to go with that.
Yeah, little does he know, she actually really likes him, but wants him to make the first move because, it's the 50s.
60s.
60s. You're right.
I know what I'm about.
It's the 60s. Alright, so they're driving down the street. I don't know why they're driving somewhere together. I guess they were on a house call, I suppose. So they're driving down the street. They see some dude hawking a newspaper. And Donna's like, what's going on with that? And Jane is like, oh yeah, well, you were on vacation. A revolution broke out in San Diablo, which is...
I don't know. That is quite a name.
Yeah, it sure is.
Saint Devil?
Yeah. Saint Devil. My favorite town. So Jane says, there are two factions battling for power in San Diablo. One faction is democratic and the other is communist. Of course.
It's the Cold War.
Yes, it is the Cold War, and the communist faction is led by a ruthless warlord known as the Executioner. And then it says, and as fate would have it, the following week at a medical meeting. Which, what the fuck is a medical meeting?
Maybe he's affiliated with a hospital, because that's fairly common for doctors, that they're associated with one medical system.
He has a private practice.
Oh, where does it say that? I don't see that.
It doesn't say that in this comic, it just comes up later.
I'm trying to make it make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
But what if it did?
You don't have to make it make sense.
But what if it made sense?
But it doesn't.
But it could.
It's a medical meeting, Ripley.
Okay.
Accept it and move on.
Maybe it's like a union meeting for doctors.
Yes, this dude at the podium is like, because of the fighting, there's a shortage of medical help in San Diablo. Disease is rampant. They've asked for doctors to volunteer. So, a couple dudes volunteer, and of course, Don is one of them. So they get on this boat to go to San Diablo, and the boat is conveniently marked with a gigantic red cross.
Well, I mean, that is smart, because you're not supposed to fire on doctors.
Yes. Well, no one told these guys that, because they roll up in some jets, and they're like, the executioner does not want the peasants to be cured. He wants them to remain ill, so they will be unable to oppose us.
That's the opposite of the rules, Mr. Executioner.
Yep. So they start attacking the boat.
Okay, so this has got me fucked up.
Fuck.
This has got me fucked up, because isn't there another Thor guy who is the Executioner?
Yes.
God damn it.
In fact, the first time I read this issue, I thought it was him, but it's not. Spoiler alert, it's not.
But what if it was, just in disguise?
That would be fucked up.
Fucked up in that it wouldn't make any sense, or fucked up in that?
I mean, both, I think. So everyone's like, oh fuck, and Don runs around the corner and hits his cane on the ground, so he turns into Thor, of course. And then on the next page, he takes off into the sky, and everyone on the boat is like, who the fuck is that? He wasn't here before. Oh god, he's flying. He just came out of nowhere. These jets, by the way, are the most ridiculous looking airplanes I've ever seen in my fucking life. They look like nothing that exists in this world.
I like that they spent all this money on purple paint.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so Thor lands on one of the jets and he hits it with his hammer and cuts it in half. The dude in that one, he has a parachute. He bails out. And then on the next page, Thor spins his hammer to make like a whirlwind that destroys the other two planes, and those guys bail out. And then he smacks another one with his hammer.
Okay, I see what you mean about how ridiculous these planes look now.
See, the design of them is just, like, not anything.
It's like a tube that couldn't actually exist because the guy is where the tube should be, with a giant disproportionate fin on top of it.
Gigantic fin, teeny tiny wings.
Tube that could not exist.
Yeah, tube that could not exist. And just straight fire coming out the back.
Like my mixtape.
You motherfucker. Oh my god. So Thor's like, okay, all the planes are dead, so I guess I'll dive underwater and change back into Donald Blake underwater where no one can see me.
That seems like a really bad idea.
It does seem like a really bad idea. Let me dive down to the bottom of the ocean to turn back into a vulnerable human. This should work out.
Bad plan, Don.
Bad plan. But a moment later, he's up at the top, and he's like, help, help! And they're like, oh, Dr. Blake, he's out in the water. And they pull him in, and he's like, oh, I accidentally fell overboard. What happened to the jets? And they're all like, oh, this dude came out of nowhere. He was like a god. He wielded a hammer just like Thor, the mythical god of thunder.
Everybody has a really good education on mythological figures.
Yeah.
Then again, I guess they've been to like a ton of college as they're doctors, so maybe.
Yes, they learned that in medical school.
I'm sure they took some non-doctoring classes. Maybe some of those classes were about Norse mythology.
Yeah. And Jane is there, and she's like, he was so handsome.
Wow. Are you telling me he's going to be in a love triangle with himself?
Yes, indeed.
Fuck.
Meanwhile, at San Diablo, we find the executioner eating a turkey leg, I guess.
It looks furry. You shouldn't be eating that, bro.
Yeah, it looks bad. And he looks bad as well. And he's sentencing one of his commanders to execution because the jets got destroyed. He's like, you have to stop those doctors from helping anyone. And they're like, okay. So they wait until the doctors land, and the doctors are traveling, and they're coming through a pass, and they set up an ambush, and they're like going through this like pass between two cliffs. It's very unclear. So they start firing on the doctors while they're exposed. And Don ducks behind a rock to turn into Thor again. Wait, no, he doesn't turn into Thor again. Plot twist. He summons a thunderstorm.
Okay, so that still works even when he's just Donald Blake?
Yeah, he could just do that.
Huh. Because I would have figured that he'd have had to turn into Thor first and then do it.
You'd think, right? That would make sense. But no, he could just do that.
What if he could do that all along and he just never tried?
See, I was gonna say it's the stick that does it, not Thor's power, but that's even better. He just had that power the entire time and he never tried it. Oh my god. So there's a thunderstorm and it's raining so hard that the gunmen can't see anything. And then on the next page, the slope they're on gets all muddy and they slide down very whimsically.
It's like they're going down a slide.
It does. It looks that way. It looks like they're having a lot of fun. And then when the Americans are safe, Don Blake gets rid of the storm. So they come up into this nondescript area with trees. And they're like, oh, there's some tanks up there.
Commie tanks.
Commie tanks.
I like that the tanks themselves are communists.
And Don's like, I gotta turn into Thor again. This time he actually does. He turns into Thor, he goes and picks up a tree, and he uses the tree as a lever to flip one of the tanks onto another tank.
These guys are really fast at getting out of this tank. It's actually pretty impressive.
It is. I don't think you could get out of a tank that fast. I also don't think you could fit that many men inside of a tank.
San Diablo's Olympic team must be bomb.
Honestly. See, it has a hammer and sickle on it. That's how you know it's a commie tank.
The jets were also commie jets.
Yes, of course. So that's 2 tanks down, and he's got one more, and it shoots a bullet at him, but he dodges it. Because of course he does. The way that he takes out the 3rd tank is he smacks it with his hammer. And hang on, let me read this to you verbatim.
Holy
An
shit.
instant later, Thor smashes his invincible hammer into the tank with such force that the vibration causes the very molecules of the steel itself to disassemble and fall apart.
I can't even blame this on Stan.
You can't even blame Stan. This is complete and utter bullshit. That's not how molecules work. That's not how vibrations work.
I could
not how
get it
hammers work.
if, like, they said that you hit it and the vibrations made it fall apart, but the molecules?
The molecules. In all of the excitement of vibrating some molecules, Thor fails to notice that Jane has been captured. Because of course she has.
Oh my god, she's the only one to get captured.
She's the only one. All the other Americans got away, but Jane got captured. And by the way, she's like walking through this South American jungle in like a skirt.
In her nurse costume.
Her nurse costume.
Outfit, I suppose. Sorry, I just flipped the page and saw Dom's face.
Don't flip ahead, you fool. You're getting ahead of me. The bad guys captured Jane, and they're like, oh, if you don't go away, we'll kill her. And Jane is like, don't listen to them. Fight them. And I don't care if I get killed. But Thor is like, I can't put Jane in danger. I have to leave. So he leaves. And they take Jane back to their base. And the executioner is like, ooh, a white lady. She's pretty. And she's like, ooh, you're ugly. So they find Donald Blake outside their camp. And he's like, let go of Jane. And the executioner is like, no, and takes away his cane.
Shocking twist.
He takes away his cane and he sentences him to face the firing squad. And Jane is like, no, don't shoot him, you mustn't. And the executioner is like, what would you do to save his life? Would you marry me?
Oh my god.
That's a normal thing to say.
I hate when this shit happens.
I know. So Dawn is like, well, I can't do anything about this because I don't have my cane. And we get to this amazing face. This face is, I can't even describe it adequately. It's just, it's incredible. It's like, how would you describe it? Yeah. Yeah, that seems fair.
I'm beyond words.
I know. It leaves me breathless. Don turns around and he calls out to the executioner, you're a lily-livered coward. If you weren't, you'd fight me man to man. And the executioner is like, you're like 100 pounds soaking wet. What are you gonna do to me? And Don is like, if you're so mighty, do you really need that stick to attack me? And the executioner's like, no. And he starts to throw it away, but then Don catches it.
He's got reflexes like a cat.
He does. And in the very next panel, Dawn just transforms into Thor in front of them. But it's okay, because it makes a blinding flash of light.
So Jane didn't see this? Didn't notice this? Did they take her back away?
No, she's still there. Jane is still there. The bad guys are still there. He grabs the stick. He smacks it on the ground. There's a blinding flash of light. And then suddenly he's gone and Thor is there. And they're all just like, where'd that guy go? I don't know, but Thor's here.
So Jane knows he's Thor?
No.
What the fuck?
No, this is what I'm trying... Okay, listen.
I'm listening, but I'm failing to understand.
Listen, he's turned into Thor in front of them.
Yes.
But they don't realize that he just turned into Thor. They just think that Donald Blake is gone and Thor is there now.
That's... what the fuck?
Yeah, this is only the first instance of this happening.
So nobody's put two and two together.
No one is establishing a cause to effect here. No one is
Including
realizing.
The woman who has assumedly been through nursing school.
Mm-hmm. You'd think.
That's really the actual meaning of the word incredible.
Yes it is. Bad guys are like, I don't know, just shoot him. But Thor, before
that's
they
your
shoot
solution
him,
for everything, Mr. Executioner.
Yeah, pretty much. So Thor throws his hammer at a tent. The hammer grabs the tent and pulls it and drops it on the guys.
This is an amazing plan.
This is how he defeats the bad guys. Rather than hit them with his hammer, he pulls a tent on top of them. This defeats them for the rest of time.
I love it.
So then the Democratic faction of San Diablo shows up, and the commies are like, fuck, we gotta retreat to the mountain.
The only one.
The mountain. And Thor... So they call it a mountain, but then Thor does this. He throws some lightning bolts at it, and apparently it's a volcano, actually. And he throws lightning at it to make it erupt, because that's just how that works.
So we've gone from dropping a tent on these guys to burning them with lava.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Did. Yeah, and also, like, all of the surrounding countryside.
Yeah. I got so caught up in the conflict, I forgot about all of the helpless civilians.
That they came here to save?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the executioner is taking the money and making a run for it. But his guys see him and they're like, he's trying to leave us here.
I like how they have American money.
They do. They have American dollars.
Here in San Diablo, we don't have our own currency.
San Diablo. So they're like, he's trying to get away with the money. He's betraying us. It is the Americans who are truly our friends. So they give him the firing squad, and he dies the way that he lived, with a bunch of guns.
And a handful of money.
A handful of money. And the Democratic faction is like, the commies are crushed. We owe it all to that fantastic fighter with the hammer. Say, where did he disappear to? He seems to have vanished. And Jane is like, he was so strong, so masculine, so wonderful.
I don't get how this woman has not put two and two together. Number one, this has happened twice, where Thor shows up and Donald Blake is not around. right in front of her.
Yeah.
But then he transforms in front of her eyes.
He transformed right in front of her, and she just did not figure it out.
That's really a lot to take in.
So, in the next panel, sometime later, well, we finally got to treat the ill people of San Diablo. Now we can return home to the States. By the way, all of these sentences end in exclamation marks.
Yeah, well, that's just how it be.
That's just how it be. Jada's like, by the way, Doctor, where were you while all the fighting was going on? And Donna's like, I was, hiding behind the execution wall. She's like, oh, hiding, golly. Why wouldn't you be brave and adventurous like Thor? But no, that would just be too much to hope for.
I hate that shit.
Like, what do you expect him to do, Jane? He is a man. He cannot fight guns.
He should just punch the guns or hit him with his stick.
With his normal man hands.
Ow!
Like, even ignoring the dumb love triangle where two of the people are the same person.
Oh, believe me, we're gonna get into some shit about that.
Oh, we're gonna get into some shit about that in multiple different places.
Marvel tropes. Getting into a love triangle with yourself.
Oh, it's something else. It's a Marvel staple at this point, honestly.
See, my favorite thing about comics, one of my favorite things anyways, is that they're actually the cross-section of modern-day mythology and soap operas, because that is some soap opera shit right there.
Yes, definitely. But that's it. That is second issue that I have to share with you.
Well, now we can move on to some discussion about something else today.
Yes.
And the thing that we have to talk about is I have been watching the Marvel movies with my parents.
Exciting.
Yeah, the other day on ABC, Captain America the Winter Soldier was on. And I'm in the other room because we were getting ready to travel. And I'm listening and I'm like, I hear the Marvel music starting. I'm just like, what are you watching? And then I hear it, and I've seen Winter Soldier apparently enough times to recognize it. Of course, the beginning's pretty easy to call out the on your left. It's just like, oh my god. So I figured the channel was going to change anytime soon, and then it didn't, and they kept watching, and then I started getting questions, and my mom was watching the whole time, and then my dad sat down, and my dad was watching with my mom for a while, and it's like, okay, so this is a thing. I can at least somewhat share something I like. I don't like the Marvel movies as much as I like the comics, but you gotta watch something, and it's still kind of fun sometimes. So
they're enjoyable.
Right, and this is something I can share with them, so we've been going through them. And I gotta admit it, I skipped the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're wanting to get someone into something, it's really hard to drag the Incredible Hulk into it. Because why would you ever want to watch anything else ever again?
Well, I mean, are you implying that it's so good that it's the only thing you'll ever want to watch?
Absolutely. You called it. No.
I don't know why I questioned it.
So you're trying to show someone something, and so the next time you see the Hulk, the actor is not the same. We barely mention anything that happened in The Incredible Hulk ever again. And it's like, so why would I do this? So it just didn't seem...
And also, it's a bad movie.
Also, it's really bad. I got so much shit posting in the Marvel Studios Reddit one time for dragging The Incredible Hulk. My karma went down to -6.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here wondering even now if I'm dooming us to hell by thrashing on the Incredible Hulk movie.
Whatever.
It is what it is.
We'll establish our audience.
Our audience will be the people who tune in to say how much they hate me for hating the Incredible Hulk. But anyway, so I'm sitting here thinking about if I have to skip a second movie. If I should skip a second movie. Because this is actually semi-topical considering which comics we're reading today. I hate Thor the Dark World. I hate Thor the Dark World. I hate Thor the Dark World.
We get it. You hate it. Oh my
I know. Move on. But, like, the thing about Thor the Dark World that I hate is that it's just forgettable. I could deal with most of it. I mean, the Dark Elves are ugly, and they covered up my favorite doctor with so much latex that he couldn't move his face. And I could deal with all that. The only memorable stuff is with Thor and Loki. I could deal with all the stuff I hate, only the thing is, I can never remember anything that happens in this movie because it's so forgettable. And when you're trying to get someone interested in something, why would you want to show them a bad movie? But on the other hand, I can see how maybe you might have to, because, like, it's one of the Infinity Stones there, and we're slowly building up to that. It took a couple movies somehow for my mom to know what the Tesseract was, so, like, do I really want to skip an Infinity Stone?
So, I mean, there's more than that that's important in that movie, but...
Is there? I forgot.
Yeah.
I told you, I forget. I've seen this movie probably 6-7 times, and I still can't remember anything that happens other than Thor, Loki, funny, Chris Eccleston covered in latex, the juice stone.
Loki owns every single scene that he's in, as always.
The juice stone looks cool.
Yeah, but this was difficult for me because you asked me if you should skip it, and I used to hate this movie, but after having read some 700 Thor comics and then watching it again, I actually really like it now.
How?
Which is it's not a popular take because I think it's easily one of the most hated of the MCU movies.
What else would you say? I mean, Incredible Hulk. Maybe not. Maybe Incredible Hulk is incredibly popular, judging by the Reddit reaction.
Everyone I see doesn't like Incredible Hulk. Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2 is not fantastic. Though I gotta say, rewatching it, I like Justin Hammer more and more. Because he's just goofy.
Yeah, he's kind of funny. Iron Man 3 is actually really divisive.
Yeah, I've noticed that. See, Iron Man 3 is my favorite of the Iron Man movies.
I think it's really good, but a lot of people, like, I don't even get their arguments, honestly. But, you know, to each their own, I guess. But for the Dark World, it feels more like the Thor comics than Thor 1 did, which is weird to say because Christopher Eccleston, or Eccleston, however...
I'm not sure how you pronounce that, actually.
Yeah, I'm not clear. He plays a character who is in the comics, and his name is Malekith, or Malekith, as our friend group knows him. So, Malekith is the leader of the Dark Elves, and he actually doesn't appear in the comics until the 80s or 90s, I think the 90s. But he's a very notable villain. He's very eccentric. He's very out there.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of him in something, and he seemed fun.
Yes, he's a fun villain, because he's kind of like Loki if Loki was a villain turned up to 1,000.
I love that idea.
Yeah, but, I mean, Loki shouldn't be a villain, but that's a different thing entirely. But, the main issue I have with Thor...
We'll get there when we get there.
We will get there. The main issue I have with the Dark World is that they took Malekith and turned him into the most sterile, boring, basic bitch I have ever seen in my fucking life. It's not even the same character. The only similarity is that he's the leader of the Dark Elves. That's it.
See, I gotta wonder if that's probably part of why I don't like this movie, because like you said, he's very boring. And
he's boring.
These movies kind of live, at least to some degree, on their villains.
Yes, so
to varying degrees, but still.
The reason why I came around on this movie is because I realized that had Malekith been anything like he is in the comics, the movie would have been so much better, because the rest of the movie is actually pretty decent, to be honest. The tie-in to the Infinity Stones is fine. I mean, I guess they kind of had to do it, but it doesn't take anything away, you know?
Right.
Which, in Thor 1, they do take things away from the original story from the comics by making, sacrifices for the overall narrative.
See, rewatching Thor 1, I actually enjoy it more than I remember.
I enjoy Thor 1. That doesn't mean I don't have complaints about it.
Yeah.
But I would say I have more complaints about Thor 1 than I do about Thor 2.
Oh my god.
Because about Thor 2, my main complaint is that Malekith sucks and the Dark Elves suck and are completely different to how they are in the comics. And the most annoying part about that is that after that movie came out, not every writer and artist, but a lot of writer and artists at Marvel changed the Dark Elves in the comics to be more like the ones in the movies.
I hate when they do that.
So, like, if you read War of the Realms, which was an event that happened last year, I think.
No.
It's been...
Not last year. Maybe at the very beginning.
Well, whatever.
Oh my god. Whatever.
What?
We can't
Whatever.
dwell on this.
We can't. So if you read War of the Realms...
War of the Realms.
War of the Realms. If you read that, or even just look at it, the Dark Elves, except for Malekith, all look like the ones from the movies. Malekith looks the same as he's looked since his introduction in the comics, thank God. And it's just like, this design is so much... I'm not going to say it's less interesting, but it's definitely wrong. It's wrong. Okay?
It's creepy
because,
I don't like it.
It
Stupid
is creepy.
Doll faces, but without
It is
eyes.
creepy. I don't mind that so much. It's more that they made it that way because they made the decision in Thor 1 to say that the Asgardians are ancient aliens. So from now on, they just had to lean into a more sci-fi-ish look, which is dumb.
Yeah, I know you never liked the ancient aliens take.
It's garbage and stupid. The comics are not totally devoid of that problem as well, but it's much rarer, and on the whole they don't acknowledge it. But for the movies they did, because they hate me specifically, and they fucked up all of the 9 realms and everything. And you know, this could be a series of bonus episodes on our Patreon. Just me talking about the 4 movies and how they fucked them up.
Oh my god. Okay, well, yeah, we don't have time for that right now. So what I'm going to ask you is to try and pull your head out of your ass full of bad takes and tell me...
You're so mean.
I know, but maybe you can tell me, from a reasonable person's perspective, would you show my parents the Dark World?
I would, because it is not only important to understanding the Infinity Saga, but also it's important to understanding Thor Ragnarok.
How so? Because I have forgotten. Oh, wait.
Because of Loki.
Loki, and also Mom is dead.
Mom is dead. Loki is dead, ? Dead is away.
Dead in the comic book sense.
Yes. So, if you plan on showing them Thor Ragnarok, which of course you are, then yes, you need to watch The Dark World. And I think they will probably enjoy it just fine, to be honest.
I think you're wrong, but okay. I guess we can probably struggle through one bad movie. We made our way through Iron Man 2, which wasn't as bad, I don't think, but whatever.
Yeah, most people, when they're making lists of the worst Marvel movies, they definitely put The Dark World above Iron Man 2.
No, for me, it's...
I mean, above
really...
as in worse.
Okay.
Above as in worse.
Yeah, for me, the worst is really a toss-up between The Dark World and The Incredible Hulk, neither of which I can remember well.
I know, but you're also biased against Thor, because you hate me.
That's right, that's why I'm biased against Thor. Specifically because I hate you.
I know.
Alright, well, was there anything else?
So, first of all, we need to talk about our social media. We talked about it last time, but it bears repeating. You can follow us on... We have pretty much all social media right now.
But not all of them are really super active. What we have active right now, we have Twitter at Comicsplaining. We have a Facebook group, also Comicsplaining.
Facebook page.
Oh.
Facebook page and Facebook group are different things.
Oh my god, I haven't used Facebook for like 5 years. Cut me some slack. Okay.
No, I found this out while I was checking out the settings on our Facebook page, and I was like, why is it a different thing? Anyway.
Oh my god. Tumblr. We have a Tumblr page.
Kind of.
Comicsplaining. I think that's it of the stuff that gets really regularly updated.
I wouldn't say regularly updated.
Yeah.
But...
Also, we have a YouTube. If you check up there on YouTube at Comicsplaining, you'll see that we actually have a video version of last podcast with all of the clips that we were looking at on the screen. So that's something we're doing for now. We're testing that out and seeing how that works.
Yeah, I was still planning on posting them on Twitter, but no one follows our Twitter yet, so maybe if you go follow our Twitter, I will post some clips.
I think we should probably do that anyway. I haven't done it yet. But
yeah,
there will be clips on our Twitter, and possibly Tumblr.
Possibly. We also want to transcribe the episodes at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen, because both of us kind of have a full plate right now, but we're going to try when we can.
Also, you can get us at our email if you have any feedback for us. Email us at comicsplaining@gmail.com. I know that we did not actually give our full email address last time, so we're trying to correct that this time and do better.
Yes, please write us at our email address or DM us on Twitter. If you have any advice for editing audio, that would be fantastic. Neither of us have ever made a podcast before, so we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants.
Or if you have any feedback, maybe you want to tell me how bad my takes on the Incredible Hulk are.
Yeah, do that, absolutely.
Or
send us all of your opinions on why The Incredible Hulk is the best movie ever.
The Incredible Hulk is the hidden masterpiece, the secret gem of the MCU.
Yes, it's the one thing that redeems the entire MCU. Our Patreon page is up, and that is, I believe, patreon.com/comicsplaining, I believe.
I believe you are right.
I have to confirm that.
Our goals for what we want to pay for with Patreon have shifted a little bit. We still do want a second mic, and we want a mixer, but also, by the length of this podcast, how long it runs, we're going to need a little more hosting space than we initially thought. So we're going to have to move up to a slightly more expensive plan than we were using. So, your Patreon donation would go to things like our being able to host this. So you can get episodes, and you can keep access to old episodes.
Yeah, and that's because we have decided on a posting schedule now. We didn't have a posting schedule in mind when we recorded the first episode, but now we do. We are posting a new episode every Wednesday. That is the day that new comics come out. So
we
you can
thought
get
it was
your
kind of
comics,
fun.
and then you can listen to us.
Also, if you are looking for a platform to subscribe to us on, if you haven't already found your way of doing that, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on TuneIn, we are on several other smaller sites, but you can subscribe to us, leave us a review. That would really help us, I think.
Pretty much wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us and leave us a review. That would help us a lot. Tell your friends. We don't really have a lot of ability to promote this. We're doing what we can, of course, but the more people spread this around, the better it'll get. I actually do have a couple other things I'd like to promote. I started a webcomic in the past week. It's a high fantasy story. If you're not into high fantasy, don't read. It's about a lot of things, but in a general sense, it's about young adults who are trying to deal with mistakes that their parents made, more or less. And you can find that on Tapas, and the address is tapas.io/series/ephemeris, and that's capital EPHEMERIS. You could also just search it with the search bar.
If anyone wants to join my Marvel Puzzle Quest group, our alliance is called 615. Look us up. We're there. We need more people. Candace and I are both on there, and we would love to have more company in our alliance.
I would also like to promote my D&D stream, if that's okay. I stream Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I'm a player in a session every Sunday, 7 p.m. EST to 10 p.m. We play Curse of Strahd. It's a good group. It's very fun. We actually just lost a member, so if anyone is interested in joining, please hit me up.
Have you checked where you last saw them?
Ha 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 ha. You've been hanging out with your dad, clearly. But you can find that stream every Sunday at twitch.com/droptune. That's DROPTUNE. And that's pretty much all I have.
Next week we are going to talk about the X-Men again, and we will finally get to that story with the Steve Ditko art that I teased last week and did not get to. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.